Hello everybody, it's Dr. Rick here. Hope everybody's doing well. I've been wrestling with something with my throat just now, partially getting my voice back. That's why you haven't heard as much of me as you normally do. Hopefully by tomorrow I'll be back full strength. But anyway, before I get started, don't forget, support the work we're doing right now with Black Men Lead and the rest of the stuff we're doing through the Odyssey Project, but definitely Black Men Lead, the Rite of Passage Initiative, and wraparound services for young Black males ages 4 to 30 primarily, but we extend beyond that when necessary, when we can. You know, it can be real tempting to sit up and complain about all the things that are going wrong in the Black community. We can talk about so many things in so many different ways. We are a disenfranchised people, and we could have legitimate arguments and cases for almost everything that we say. But here's the truth. Along with all those facts that we can present to make our cases, there's this truth that at the end of the day, the only person, or in this case, the only people who will change it will be us. We must abandon the idea that we can get anyone other than ourselves to fix our problems. I have come to you guys on numerous occasions to talk to you about ways that we can do it. I have invested, an immense amount of time, energy, effort, research, and funding into the discovery of solutions. I never did my research for the purpose of pointing the finger. I never did my research to say, see what you did to us. I never did my research to say, well, this is what's wrong with us, so it's okay. It's an excuse for our behavior. I did the research so that we can have a basis from which to heal, first and foremost, a basis from which to create strategies through agendas and protocols to literally, strategically, and methodically move ourselves out of the current socioeconomic position we're in, which has rendered us impotent. In doing that, I have maintained a theme that we must restore the Black family, because the Black family is the institution through which we engage and propagate our values, interests, and principles. It is in the family environment that children learn what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what's expected of them, what they should not and cannot and won't do. It is in that environment where it must be inculcated into their minds and their subconscious the importance of ownership, the importance of unity, the importance of knowing their roles and their identity, the importance of protecting their Blackness with great ferocity. All of these things are part of that. There's no shortage of the dissemination of the work that I've done. It's disseminating in tons and tons of pages of work. It's disseminated in miles and miles and miles of video footage, lectures. I have also been very active in the practical application of what I suggest. So I am at the ground level of what the outcome looks like. And what I know is if we start to practice some of the things that have been presented to us, long before I came, there were people talking about what needed to be done. Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Naeem Akbar, Dr. Joy DeGride, Neely Fuller Jr., and so many many, many more. Dr. John Howard Clark. So many have come before us and laid out the groundwork, told us what we needed to do. And I mean, Dr. Claude Anderson, just over and over again, we've had this, we've had it, and we haven't danced to the beautiful music of empowerment. We haven't taken a hold of the possibilities and looked at it and said, oh my, what do we have in front of us? What can we do? We haven't done that. We have sit around, we have meandered and lingered and coasted and whined and complained and the answers are right in our laps. I'm telling you, we need to socialize our young children, both boys and girls. They need to know who they are. Before they're ever exposed to the world, they already need to understand race. You cannot let them go into a world that's constantly telling them that racism isn't an issue, but judging them by their race. That's putting them at a disadvantage. That's putting them in the same situation that so many of us have faced, where we are constantly trying to be friends with people who are going to take their advantage against us, even the ones who don't necessarily have an inherent hatred towards us. They're not surrendering their privilege. They're not going to act on our behalf at their detriment, and neither should we expect them to. What we should expect is to be acting on our own behalf at such a level and such a rate with such force that we automatically make ourselves impervious to the things that they're doing. We are vulnerable because we are not operating within the sphere of our own power to do things for ourselves. The education system. Primary thing, I've given you the gist, more than the gist. I've given you the details on it. I've written on the disproportionate rate at which black males are referred for special education and how that impacts them throughout the system, alienates them, and increases their risk for dropping out of high school before they get their diploma, and ultimately increases their risk for going to prison, and a bunch of other things. I told you about how the system is doing that and what we need to do. We're not doing it. We're not taking on the responsibility. We're still expecting a system that has never worked for us to all of a sudden work for us. We're still expecting a people who have never put us at the forefront because it does not benefit them to all of a sudden do so. No one is going to sit up and say, you know what, I shouldn't have 80% of everything, so I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you 30% so you can get 50, and I'll have 50. Nobody's going to do that, because with that comes a reshifting and rebalancing of power. And there's a fear of what we would do with any power that we were to attain. And that simply is not going to bode well with them. So we are going to have to learn to look out for ourselves. We're going to have to learn to stand up and actually move on our own behalf. We're going to have to become more engaged. We're going to have to get involved in grassroots programs at the ground level. We're going to have to be actively engaged in doing things that shifts and changes things. It absolutely has to be done. So, in essence, what am I getting at? I'm saying we've got to get off of social media complaining and start creating our own spaces. But even when we're on social media, we should be actively making moves and doing things that advance. And so, in other words, instead of saying, oh my God, look what they're doing to us, sit up and point out something that somebody can do to do something better. Sit up and share resources. Sit up and share ideas. Plant positive seeds. Plant challenges. Plant anything that's positive that moves the mind towards being better as individuals and as a collective. Make it a place where work is being done. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for having a breakaway and enjoying yourself, because if you don't, you'll burn out. Trust me. Been there. You got to have a breakaway. It's okay to entertain yourself, but entertainment can't be the driving force. Entertainment can't be all that you look for. We've got to get away from the vulnerability and the attraction to sensationalism, because that's how they draw us away. That's one of the primary ways that they distract us from being engaged in things that will actually change our situation. It's our responsibility to ensure that we're focused. It's our responsibility to ensure that we have a clear pathway to what it is we want. And right now we don't have it, even though it's blueprinted for us, but we're not laying it out. We're not walking it out. We're not building it out. We're spending way too much time complaining. I said all of that, and I'm going to leave it at this. We've got to do better. Like I said, I've dedicated a huge portion of my life to coming up with solutions. And I don't engage in conversations about problems without there being a willingness to discuss solutions. So anytime that I'm talking about a problem, I'm talking about also what must be done. If you look at any video, if you read any book, you're going to say, okay, this is what's going on. We need to. You always look for the solution. You always look for the solution. There's no power in highlighting problems, but there is power in being a problem solver. And that's what we need, more people doing that. We need more people behind the people with the ideas. We need more people behind the people who are willing to get out there and make things happen. There's a place for everybody, and everybody needs to be actively engaged. I'm inviting everybody to go on a ride of empowerment. Stop talking about it. Stop complaining. Stop all this stuff. I want to get out there and actually start moving towards something. I want to change the way we educate our children. I want to change the way we develop our young boys. I want to develop and empower our young girls. I want to restore the desire for marriage and commitment, because that institution is so important to the perpetuation of values, interests, and principles that will serve the black community. We don't get it because we don't put the pieces together, and we don't look further enough back. We don't see how the decline has taken place and where we are in parallel with certain behaviors, certain failures, and how they have negatively impacted us. We've got to engage that. The answers are there. We need to put it together. We need to get behind and invest. We can't talk about doing something if we're not going to be willing to get involved and invest in it. And I mean invest money. I mean invest time. I mean invest research. I mean invest your skill set and your gifts. I mean, we have to be more deeply involved in solving the problem than sitting on the surface and talking about what the problem is. And on that note, look, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. I'm on my way home. Like I said, my voice is giving me the business. So I'm going to let it rest. But that's where I'm leaving it at. And again, we really could use your financial support with a donation to Black Man Lead, or in general to the Odyssey Project. But Black Man Lead is a rite of passage program that is designed with the understanding that we need to socialize our young black boys. It's an understanding that shows and has data that proves, and real life case studies that show, when we properly racially socialize young black males, it reduces their proclivity to violence, it reduces their criminality, it reduces their dropout rates, it increases their desire to be business owners, it increases their desire to be positive and protective towards our women, and so many other things. This is a social must, and we need to make it a national, universal rite of passage, so every young black male is being trained up with the same expectations. So no matter where they go, they're going to be plugged into an environment that expects the same thing and demands the same thing. This is going to have to be a must if we're going to ever get there. I'm inviting you to come along and be a part of that. I'm inviting you to share in the unlimited possibilities of creating a generation of black men that totally changes and shifts the way we view ourselves and our hopes for our future. And on that note, I'm going to get out of here. You guys, thank you for letting me invade your time. I'm out.